Thank you, Palestine, for presenting me. And welcome to our second seminar under the title, Jerusalem in the International Law. Let's welcome then our guests. Firstly, I'm going to ask you a question. Do you have to be Arab, Muslim, or even Palestinian in order to support Palestine? To prove it to you, I'll present you a non-Arab, non-Muslim, and non-Palestinian Jewish supporter of the Palestinian cause. Writer of many books, which main target is to educate the world about the Palestinian diaspora, and mostly of the ethnic cleansing of Palestine. Let's welcome Éilان Bapé. Our second guest for today is a US-based Palestinian journalist, head of many organizations, as well as author of many books, out of which we know the most famous one called The Last Earth, a Palestinian Story, and the newest, in collaboration with Sir Éilán Bapé, Our Vision for Liberation. Let's welcome again Sir Rmzi Bárود. Next, an Italian parliamentarian called Davide Trípiedi, who, this is Sir Éilán Bapé. You're welcome. Please have a seat. Here we have Sir Rmzi Bárود. And as we were saying before, an Italian parliamentarian who fought for the Palestinian rights, spoke about it in the Italian parliament, and remembered Palestinians and Palestine to everyone who didn't know about it. Actually took a step forward to speak about Palestine. The parliamentarian Davide Trípiedi. Lastly, an international law specialist, president of the One Justice organization, and follower of criminal cases. By participating with other lawyers, let's welcome Sir Khaalid الشولي. Welcome, Sir Éilán Bapé. So, Sir Éilán, we would like to start off with you and ask you, as a historian, as well as a supporter of the Palestinian cause, although being a Jew yourself, could you tell us more about the geographical and historical status of Jerusalem for the Palestinians?
Can you hear me? Yes, you can. Thank you. I think a lot of people here know about the more ancient history of Jerusalem. But I think a very important chapter in the history of Jerusalem, which is usually ignored, is the Jerusalem under the Ottoman rule from 1517 until the end of the First World War. Because these are the 400 years in which Jerusalem developed as a center for Arab culture, poetry, wisdom, and the major families in Jerusalem from the 16th, 17th century began to build the Palestinian society and prepare it for the move into the 19th and 20th century. Jerusalem slowly became as important as other cities of Palestine, particularly Jaffa and Nablus, and even more so as we move towards the end of the Ottoman period. So it's not only that we should recognize Jerusalem as the holy place for Islam and its importance in this respect, it became from the very early 19th century the center of Palestinian nationalism and the Palestinian move towards modernization, towards the next century. And there were amazing educational institutions, cultural institutions, newspapers. I should also mention that Jerusalem was the first municipality, modern municipality in Palestine, that actually you can see, with this I would end, you can see that had Zionism not arrived in Palestine, Jerusalem would have been a natural center for a new political entity called Palestine. Like Beirut was the center for Lebanon, Cairo for Egypt, Baghdad for Iraq, and Damascus for Syria. It was very clear that Jerusalem's history in the past and in the more during the mandatory period and even before that made it the cultural, political, and social center of Palestine. And I think I, as a professor, I have a problem of finding students who work on this period because you need to know Ottoman Turkish. And it's very, very difficult to learn Ottoman Turkish, and it's even more difficult to read Ottoman Turkish. And you cannot write a proper history of Palestine. Well, we need to do it because the Zionist historians until today claim that in those years, nothing happened in Palestine. Palestine was empty, there was no society, there was no culture. We need to reintroduce the Palestinians into the history of Palestine, not only of the 20th century, but of the 15th century, 16th century. Palestine was an important place of learning, of teaching, of culture, and I think this would one day be recognized and would be an important part of a vision for liberation in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sir Ilan Pafe. We're going to continue with Sir Rmzi Baaroud. Sir Rmzi, I would like to know from you what the role of Jerusalemites and Palestinians is in defending the holy city and thwarting the Israeli occupation's plans.
Absolutely. Of course, the centrality of Jerusalem is something that is so very well known to many of us. And Ilan just spoke about it prior to, the familiar terminology we use with Jerusalem, the one of the holiest place for Muslims and all of that. But I think we need to also remember that the Zionists should not have been allowed to define the markers of our history. Even we Palestinians, as intellectuals, as activists, when we talk about Palestine, we always start with the Zionist movement, the formation of the Zionist movement in the late 19th century. We speak about the Balfour Declaration. We speak about the Nakba, but almost always as if a reaction to something that the Zionists have done or introduced. But if you look at the Palestinian national movement, you will find that there was a formation. I'm not talking even about Palestine as a political or administrative reality. That existed for thousands of years. But talking about Palestine within modern nationalism is a concept that actually started in the 17th and 18th century, way before many European countries developed a sense of national identity and political uniqueness. And this is why we should not be reactionary in how we tell the story of Palestine. And also the story of Jerusalem. I'm afraid, I'll give you an example. Quite recently, I was in South Africa. And many Muslims in South Africa have been asking me about Al-Aqsa Mosque, Al-Aqsa Mosque, Al-Aqsa Mosque. And then with time, I actually began realizing that when they think about Al-Aqsa, they're actually referring to the mosque. I mean, the actual mosque of walls and the Golden Dome and all of that. For us Palestinians, Arabs, and people in the region, we understand that Al-Aqsa Mosque, yes, it is a very, very significant spiritual symbol, but it's also the symbol of something much bigger than the mosque itself. And I think sometimes because we want to get our Muslim sisters and brothers to join us, we kind of go for something that is relatable to them, something easy for them to understand and to engage with, to the point that quite often you will find Muslim communities, whether in Europe or in Africa or in Southeast Asia, that seem to actually understand that the struggle is about the mosque itself. So a family of South African Muslims came to me and they said, Rmzi, that was so beautiful what you said. You know, in fact, we went to visit Al-Aqsa Mosque, mashallah. We also went to Tel Aviv, and we stayed on the beach for about a week. And then they started, and we went shopping. And I was like, okay, you are missing the whole point here. So the fact that you actually engaged with Israeli apartheid, the fact that you are actually validated the Israeli political establishment, and you just went to the mosque. So when we say Al-Aqsa, we mean Al-Quds. When we say Al-Quds, we also mean Ramallah, Jenin, Al-Khalil, Gaza, Khan Yunis, Ain al-Hilwa, Al-Yarmouk, Palestinians all over the world. That's what we mean. And I think it's so very important that we emphasize this point.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. We're going to continue then with Sir Dafidi. You showed the right image of Palestine inside of the European Parliament. I would like to hear from you what your thought about the moving of embassies to Jerusalem and the political Judaization is, and how hard it is to speak up about it inside of the European Parliament.
Grazie mille. Allora, io preferisco fare il mio intervento in italiano e mi dovete scusare per questo. Ho una facile comprensione dell'inglese, ma preferisco evitare di parlarlo. Allora, innanzitutto volevo ringraziarvi per essere qua in questo strepitoso convegno dove la parola principale è pace, pace. La parola principale è proprio questa, la pace. E su questa parola importante noi dobbiamo concentrarci. Oggi pensare di spostare l'ambasciata di Israele a Gerusalemme vuol dire buttare benzina sul fuoco. Quindi io credo personalmente che non è una cosa da fare. Penso che il mio gruppo politico, il Movimento 5 Stelle, la veda come me, perché noi siamo sempre stati dalla parte dei più fragili, dei più deboli, degli oppressi, e non c'è cosa più giusta di sostenere la causa palestinese. Quindi sono fortemente contrario, perché è, forse dirò una parola un po' troppo forte, ma è come istigare delle persone a fare quello che il giusto non è. Quindi se si vuole un dialogo, se si vuole veramente la pace, l'ultima cosa da fare è quella di spostare l'ambasciata di Israele a Gerusalemme. Questo è il mio pensiero.
Thank you, Sir Tripiedi. And now, lastly, with Sir Khaalid al-Shuli. Sir Khalid, because of the international field you work in, from a law point of view, I would like to know from you what your thought about the special status of Jerusalem city inside of the international law is, being a city under Israeli occupation. I would like to know from you what your thought about the special status of Jerusalem city inside of the international law is, being a city under Israeli occupation.
I will speak on Arabic because this is very easier for me to explain in Arabic. About فيما يتعلق في القانون ووضع الأراضي المحتلة في فلسطين، يجب أن نركز على بعض الأمور حتى نفهمها. أنا أريد أن أتكلم إلى الشريحة الواسعة من الموجودين. هذا مهم جدا لأنه لابد أن يفهموا بأن الأراضي الفلسطينية المحددة، وأنا أتكلم قانوني الآن ولا أتكلم بالعواطف الدينية أو العواطف الوطنية، وإنما أتكلم قانون. كل الأراضي الواقعة في ما يسمى الضفة الغربية بما فيها القدس الشرقية وقطاع غزة إلى يومنا هذا هي مناطق محتلة يسري عليها اتفاقيات جنيف الأربعة والبروتوكولات الخاصة بهذه الاتفاقيات، البروتوكولات الإضافية. الصراع الموجود في فلسطين هو صراع يحدده وينطبق عليه أيضاً قواعد القانون الدولي وقواعد القانون الدولي الإنساني. نحن سابقاً قبل 1907 و 1948 كان هناك شيء يسمى قانون الحرب، بعد هذه التواريخ وبعد هذه خاصة بعد الحرب العالمية الثانية أسمينا هذا القانون القانون الدولي الإنساني الذي يحكم الصراعات الموجودة في العالم والصراعات المسلحة. إذن نحن نتكلم عن منطقة صراع دولي ومنطقة صراع مسلح، إذن يحكمها قواعد القانون الدولي. إسرائيل منذ نشأتها إلى يومنا هذا لا تريد أن تطبق اتفاقيات جنيف، رغم أن هناك قرار من قبل الساسة الإسرائيليين فيما يتعلق في دولة الاحتلال الإسرائيلي بعد 1967 التي قالت أن هناك تطبيق لاتفاقية جنيف الرابعة على المدنيين الفلسطينيين، لكن وبقدرة قادر يعني إسرائيل تراجعت عن هذا الكلام فيما بعد، وتعتبر أن الأراضي الفلسطينية هي أراضٍ متنازع عليها وليست أراضٍ محتلة. هذا مهم جدا حتى نعرف الصراع الموجود أمام المحافل الدولية. فلسطين إذن هي واقعة تحت الاحتلال الإسرائيلي، ينطبق عليها الاتفاقيات وقواعد القانون الدولي وقواعد القانون الدولي الإنساني. القدس بشكل خاص أيضا لها وضعية خاصة، وهذه الوضعية الخاصة أيضا ورأيناها من خلال قرار التقسيم لسنة 1947، قرار 181 الذي أعطى للقدس وضعية خاصة، وهذه الوضعية ما زالت منطبقة إلى الآن. بعض أساتذة القانون الدولي يقولون بأن هذه الوضعية ما زالت مستمرة، ولذلك تبقى فلسطين تحت هذه الوضعية، وضعية القانون الدولي الإنساني، القدس المحتلة. القدس إذن إخواني الكرام، أعزائي طلاب القانون، كل الموجودين في هذه الصالة، ويجب أن نكون صوت فلسطين القانوني خارج هذه القاعة. القدس المحتلة هي أيضا موضوع لقرارات دولية منذ سنة 1967، وخاصة القرار 2334 الذي صدر في 2016 والذي يقول بأن كافة الإجراءات التي تقوم بها دولة الاحتلال الإسرائيلي داخل المدينة المقدسة هي إجراءات باطلة، ومنعدمة لا تؤدي إلى تأثير لا في المستقبل ولا في الحاضر، وهي تخالف ما تم الاتفاق عليه في قواعد القانون الدولي من أن القدس المحتلة هي لابد المحافظة على الستاتيكو، الوضع الذي كان ما قبل الاحتلال. إذا نحن أمام انتهاكات صارخة. هذه الانتهاكات الصارخة نعتبرها أيضا من قبيل جرائم الحرب وجرائم ضد الإنسانية التي تشمل في قواعد أيضا نظام روما الأساسي الذي أنشأ محكمة الجنايات الدولية. نحن نعلم بأن المادة السابعة والمادة الثامنة التي تحدد هذه العلاقات وهذه الجرائم تنطبق على الوضع في فلسطين وخاصة في القدس المحتلة. ونحن الآن نحضر لمجموعة من القضايا، من البلاغات التي سوف نقدمها إلى محكمة الجنايات الدولية في هذا المجال، لأننا نعتبر بأن القدس خاصة الجرائم فيها معتبرة ولا تحتاج إلى أدلة، لأنه أصلاً القانون الإسرائيلي والقانون الأساسي الإسرائيلي يعمل من القدس أنها مناطق منضمة أو تم ضمها إلى دولة الاحتلال الإسرائيلي، وهذا مخالف لقواعد القانون الدولي الإنساني. لذلك نحن أمام جريمة مكتملة الأركان نستطيع من خلال المحاكم الدولية وخاصة محكمة الجنايات الدولية، وأيضا أمام المحاكم الأخرى وخاصة المحكمة الأوروبية، ولقد نجحنا في عديد من القرارات أمام المحكمة الأوروبية في بروكسل باستخلاص بعض أيضا الأحكام التي تحدد بأن الإجراءات الإسرائيلية التي تقوم بها في القدس المحتلة وفي فلسطين المحتلة الضفة الغربية بما فيها القدس وقطاع غزة هي إجراءات باطلة.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Khaled الشولي. And I thank you all, each and every one of you, for remembering Palestine every single day of your lives and making people know and learn about the Palestinian cause and the fact that it's not just a cause, it's not even a conflict. It's apartheid. It's still going on since 75 years till today. Because if we don't make people remember about Palestine, who will? Our role is to remember Palestine and remind others to remember Palestine. Why do we have to always show dead bodies of people in Palestine and wars to be remembered? You don't need to be Palestinian or part of the cause to support the cause. So thank you a lot for being here with me and helping me get the answer to the world.